Hockey is probably one of the most beautiful games on earth. You got gorgeous, smooth shots, but you also have absolutely disgusting dangles. But to top off the game to make it the best, we also have the dirtiest plays.
That was just a dirty play by Hunter.
So what are the most horrific penalties in the NHL? And why might it be the most horrific? Could it have been Dale Hunter's cowardly attack from behind on Pierre Turgeon? Or is it quite possibly Rafi Torres' blindside hit on Jakob Silfverberg? Or do you think it's the common knee-on-knee Matt Cooke liked to give to Tyson Barrie? Here are the most horrific penalties in the NHL. Here, at number 20, we're going to start it off strong from an unexpected source. Pavel Bure is one of the greatest per-game goal scorers in the National Hockey League history.
Please welcome Pavel Bure, inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in the Players category.
And he's in the Hall of Fame because of it. Mr. Bure had 437 goals in 702 games, topping 50 goals 4 times and reaching 60 twice. This right winger was nicknamed the Russian Rocket because, like a rocket, he sped. But on May 4th, 1994, in Game 2 of the Western Conference Final between his Vancouver Canucks and the Dallas Stars, Bure got just a quite bit annoyed at Shane Sherla of the Dallas Stars taking physical liberties with the Canucks players, and Bure then used his speed to deliver this atrocious elbow right to Sherla's noggin. The best part about it is the referee Andy Van Helmond either did not see the elbow or agreed with Bure's form from a frontier justice standpoint, because no penalty was called. Sherla, who was not injured, refused to shake Bure's hand at the end of the series, which was won by Bure and the Canucks. Oh, and Bure also scored 2 goals in that game, which gave Canucks a victory of 3-0. And of course, the Canucks advanced to the Stanley Cup's final, in which they lost to the New York Rangers in 7.
Goals only 2 minutes and 54 seconds apart to establish the record.
But number 19 features 2 Hall of Famers. It also happened in 1994, but during the regular season, Mark Messier had almost 700 goals and Mike Modano over 550, but neither of those stints meant anything when Messier, then with the New York Rangers, knocked out the Dallas Stars' Modano with this brutal hit from behind. Modano suffered a concussion and cuts to his head. In addition, when being forced to load into the ambulance, Modano's EMS carrier tripped over on one side, falling to the floor, literally adding insult to injury. Messier was suspended for 2 games. Next up,
Red Wings have 3 indeed.
at number 18 is the hit that launched a rivalry. That's right. Claude Lemieux's hit on Chris Draper sent Draper's face first into the boards during the deciding Game 6 of the 1996 Western Conference Final. The Detroit Red Wings Draper suffered a broken nose, a broken jaw, and a broken cheekbone, as well as a concussion. Lemieux of the Avs was suspended for the first 2 games of the subsequent Stanley Cup Final. And of course, the Red Wings were incensed that the suspension was not longer. But the Avalanche were still able to sweep the Florida Panthers in the Cup Final to win their first ever Stanley Cup. But the Avs had not heard the last of Detroit, because that hit began a heated rivalry between 2 teams that lasted into the early 2000s. The penalty at number 17 was not to the head and was perpetrated by a player making his first of 3 appearances on this list. Over a 16-season career from the 1998-99 season to 2014-15, Matt Cooke did make a name for himself as a physical, checking line center who always played on edge. Hold up, let me translate that for you, alright? He dished out dangerous hits that hurt people, and this is just one of his signature moves. He gave a knee-on-knee hit right to Colorado Avalanche defenseman Tyson Barrie. This solid knee-to-knee hit came in Game 3 of the first round 2014 playoff series between Cooke's Minnesota Wild, his 4th team, and Colorado. Guys, I've been recovering from an MCL, ACL, and meniscus injury, and trust me, it is painful. You need surgery for this. And guess what? Bure's injury was a sprained MCL, giving Cooke a suspension for 7 games. The Avs defenseman had this to say about Cooke. "I don't know if there's a place for him in this game. It's disgusting what he's done to guys' careers." Now, from an attack on opponents' legs to an airborne strike at number 16. But wait, this is hockey, right? How the hell can there be danger from above? Well, during an exhibition game on September 25th, 2007, the Philadelphia Flyers' Steve Downie showed us by launching himself at the head of the Ottawa Senators, defenseman Dean McCammond. Downie was just a prospect trying to make the Philadelphia Flyers open day roster. And I guess the coaching staff really likes dirty hits. I mean, it's the Flyers, right? The Broad Street Bullies. But anyways, he did make the team. But guess what? Before he'd even played his first NHL game, he was already out for a 20-game suspension that he served because of this massive hit. And for McCammond, he suffered his second concussion within a few months, because McCammond also had a concussion during the previous season's Stanley Cup playoffs.
Well, that puck is chipped by. Chara's got to let him go there.
But number 15 is a player whose physical stature is perhaps the most unique, most impressive, and the most dangerous in NHL history. That's right, we're talking about the Z-Man. Defenseman Zdeno Chara is 6'9", and he played for 24 seasons in the NHL. He played with the Islanders, the Ottawa Senators, the Washington Capitals, and of course, the Boston Bruins. And he weighed 250 to 270 pounds. This was not a guy you wanted to mess with. He was no friendly giant. Making this Slovakian-born Chara even more dangerous was that he was the son of former Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler Zdeno Chara. And of course, the older Chara made sure that his son would be able to defend by himself and trained him in the wrestling discipline. If that's not enough, in addition to the cardio training necessary to be an NHL player, Chara was also an avid cyclist. As part of his training each summer, after the Tour de France had been completed, Chara would cycle the Tour de France on his own. So what I'm saying is that Zdeno Chara would not really have to do anything special to hurt an opponent during his career. So, it seems almost unfair here how while he was in Boston against the Montreal Canadiens, Max Pacioretty went into the boards and applies a bit of force himself. And, to use a professional wrestling term, runs Pacioretty head into the turnbuckle, or a stanchion in the arena between the benches. Pacioretty suffered a concussion and a vertebrae fracture. Chara received a 5-minute major penalty and a game misconduct, but was not suspended. Chara also ran a marathon under 4 hours, and this was after he retired in 2023. But don't think that Chara's skills are only physical. He speaks 7 languages, has a finance planning degree, and a real estate license. And don't forget the massive clapper that this guy had. Come on. Speaking of using the barriers between the ice and the crowd, we have number 14. A couple of years before his most famous transgression, which we will get to later, the Washington Capitals' Dale Hunter slams the head of Philadelphia Flyers' Gord Murphy right against the glass behind the net on February 10th, 1991. It looked pretty bad, but Murphy, being tough as balls, did not miss a shift. Hunter was only suspended for 4 games after this play.
He's gonna get it. He jumped.
Another incident that saw an unfortunate player being slammed into the glass is number 13. Hitting the glass was no choir boy himself in October of 2005, the Toronto Maple Leafs' Darcy Tucker. Sending him there was a forearm from Atlanta Thrashers defenseman Andy Sutton. If you would have taken a poll of NHL players at the time, Tucker would probably have been considered the dirtiest player in the NHL, whereas Sutton was probably seen as a hardworking and aggressive player. But in this case, it was Tucker who got the bloody face, which required several stitches. and Sutton got a match penalty, game misconduct, and a 4-game suspension. Now, if you live in the modern era, I don't even have to tell you his name, but I will. Tom Wilson has been considered one of the most dangerous and some think dirtiest hitters in the league over the past few years. He is number 12. And it seems that this one in an exhibition game against Oscar Sundqvist of the St. Louis Blues was absolutely not necessary, because he gifted this man a concussion, a shoulder injury, and facial laceration. Wilson was suspended for 20 games. We're back, baby. At number 11, we got the one and only Matt Cooke. This time as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins on March 20th, 2011. In the third period of a game against the New York Rangers, Cooke skates across the ice to deliver an elbow to the head of Rangers defenseman Ryan McDonagh. Cooke was assessed a 5-minute major after telling McDonagh he's a done. The Rangers scored twice on this 5-minute power play and won the game 5-2. Luckily, McDonagh was not injured and returned to the game. Number 10 is the first of 2 horrific penalties committed by Rafi Torres, who was suspended a number of times for illegal hits throughout his career. This one came on April 17, 2012 in Game 3 of the first round playoff series between Torres' Arizona Coyotes and the Chicago Blackhawks. With the puck nowhere in the area, he laid out Chicago star Marian Hossa with this blindside shot to the head. Hossa, who is one of the great two-way players in NHL history, scored 525 goals, won 3 Stanley Cups, and is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He suffered a concussion and was not cleared to play until the following December. Though, due to the NHL lockout the following season, it did not begin until late January. It was Torres' 3rd suspension for an illegal hit, and at this time it was 25 games. Number 9. Defenseman Kyle McLaren of the Boston Bruins. On April 26, 2002, in Game 4 of a first-round playoff series against the Canadiens, McLaren used his left forehand to hammer the head of Montreal Canadiens Richard Zednik, who sustained a severe concussion, and a broken nose, and a bruised throat, and a cut under his right eye, and missed the remainder of the playoffs. McLaren was suspended for the rest of the series. Number 8 happened in the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. In Game 3, Vancouver Canucks defenseman Aaron Rome caught the Boston Bruins center Nathan Horton with this quite unnecessary shot to the head. Horton suffered a severe concussion and missed the remainder of the series. Rome was suspended for the final 4 games, which is the longest in the NHL Finals history. Number 7 came on December 18th, 2021, when the Chicago Blackhawks' Brett Connolly leveled the Dallas Stars' Tanner Carroll with a straight shoulder to the head. Oh, and guess what? The puck was nowhere in vicinity. Carroll was carried off the ice on a stretcher and taken to a nearby hospital in precaution. Connolly was assessed a 5-minute major, a game misconduct, and was suspended for 4 games. Number 6 is the rare situation in which Cooke was the victim of a horrific penalty. Duncan Keith, who played the most of his career with the Blackhawks, won 2 Norris trophies as the NHL's best defenseman and won 3 cups, and will likely be elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame. First-year eligibility. Keith was not known for being a physical player, but he did have a mean and dirty streak. And this elbow to Cooke's head is proof that he means dirty business on this streak. Cooke also learned that he had to take some of what he himself dished out. Keith was penalized to the elbow, but not suspended. Serves him right, doesn't it? But this time, Keith was also penalized and suspended at number 5. It was another elbow to the head, and on March 21st, 2012, it was the head of Vancouver Canucks Daniel Sedin. He sustained a concussion and missed 12 games. Keith was only assessed a 2-minute minor, but was suspended for 5 games. Number 4 is Cooke yet again, in his more familiar role as the perpetrator. And believe it or not, Cooke did not even receive a penalty nor a suspension for this totally unnecessary blindside shoulder to the noggin of this Boston Bruins Marc Savard on March 7, 2010. Savard was left with a grade 2 concussion and missed significant portions of the following season. It was also the beginning of the end for Savard's playing career. Number 3 is courtesy of a man who usually used his fist to make a name for himself. But this time, the Toronto Maple Leafs Ty Domi used his elbow on the head of New Jersey Devils future Hall of Fame defenseman Scott Niedermayer during the 2001 playoffs. Niedermayer was knocked unconscious. Domi was then kicked out of the game and suspended for the rest of the playoff series and the first 8 games of the following season. Domi then said it was in retaliation for something Niedermayer had done in a prior game between the two teams. He later made a hilarious joke apology filled with tears, saying it was the dumbest thing I did in my career. Welcome back, Rafi Torres. This time, it was the hit to the head of Anaheim Ducks Jakob Silfverberg during an exhibition game in early October 2015. Because he was a repeat offender, Torres was suspended for 41 games and forfeited over $440,000 in salary. Last but not least, we're at number 1, the moment you've all been waiting for. And on this penalty is the Washington Capitals' Dale Hunter's attack from behind on the New York Islanders' Pierre Turgeon during the 1993 playoffs. On April 28, 1993, Turgeon stole the puck from Hunter and scored the game and series clinching goal with Hunter trailing behind. But as soon as Turgeon began celebrating, Hunter hits and attacks Turgeon from behind. Turgeon suffered a separated shoulder and missed all but the last game of the Islanders' next series. Hunter was suspended for a then NHL record 28 games. So there you have it, 20 horrific penalties in the NHL. Which do you think was the most horrific? Leave a comment on the one you think was the most brutal penalty. Also, click on the video on the screen to watch the greatest 15 coaches in NHL history. And if you like this video, don't be a bender, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help the algorithm, help us grow, and see you next time.